Hi, my name is Judy and I'm the City Stitcher, and welcome to my Flosstube channel. Today is Sunday, December the 5th. It is the second week of Advent. So for those of you celebrating, happy Advent to you. I forgot last week because I forgot to check my calendar. Last week, of course, was the beginning of Hanukkah, and Hanukkah ends tomorrow. So for those of you celebrating Hanukkah, happy Hanukkah to you. I hope you've had a wonderful series of 8 days of celebration. This is a channel about cross-stitching and the stitching that I've done this week. So if you are a new viewer, thank you for stopping by and spending some time with me. And if you are a returning viewer, as always, I truly appreciate those of you who come back and watch faithfully week after week. And those of you who watch sporadically but regularly. To all of you, because I fit into all of those categories for the Flosstubers that I myself watch. I'm filming a little later than I was hoping to. It has been a partially sunny, partially cloudy day, so the light has not been good. So it hasn't really made much of a difference in here. Winter has truly arrived. There is snow on the ground. My poor shovel boys had to come shovel twice. It's chilly in here. Hence still wearing the warm fuzzy things, but we're going to try and get through it at the moment. I keep saying to myself I really do need to figure out where my winter time filming spot is going to be, because I keep hoping that it will be even in the winter, as long as it's not like minus 20 degrees Celsius. If it is a bright sunshiny day, this room is actually still lovely. So I keep hoping for those, and it hasn't happened for a bit, but here we are anyway. And with that, let's get into some stitching. So it's been a reasonably productive week. Decisions have been made. I failed on my promise from last week about posting my photo on Instagram for the sampler stitches, because I was crazy enough to keep thinking that I was going to wait for a sunshiny day where I could have good lighting, and it didn't happen. So we'll try and get that done this week. All right, here we go. Temperature Tree by the Stitchin' Mommy on Etsy. Decisions have been made, action has been taken. So what I did this week is I unstitched. This is a total frog. It was funny. I showed it to a couple of my friends who looked at them and were like, "Oh, yeah, you're not kidding. That looks really different in real life than it does when you look at it on camera." So I'm sure when I was showing this before, and what they tell me, and wouldn't surprise me at all, is that you couldn't really see the level of variegation in the branches that I had done with my new skeins of cocoa bean. But in real life, you could really tell. And I laughed because one of them was trying to be positive and said, "Well, you know, by the time you put leaves on there," and which I, of course, had said to myself. And then she's like, "Yeah, but it's already bothering you, and you haven't even done the rest of them." And somebody else kind of said, "Yeah, by the time you get the rest of the branches done, it will look..." This is a very lightly variegated version of cocoa bean. So when you have to look to see the variegation, and the variegation is very slight. On the other side, it was much more variegated, and you could see it. And so it would look like there was half the tree that had, probably to the average viewer, no variegation, and half the tree would be highly variegated. And you know me and symmetry, so that wasn't going to work. So I've made my decision. I ripped it out. I did go to my LNS, looked at the new cocoa bean that had arrived. It's still highly variegated. So I am going to get my anchor thread out, and I'm just going to stitch it in straight old anchor. Again, this is very lightly variegated. I mean, I can see the variegation because I, of course, was stitching it, and so I know what to look for. Again, to the average person, they're not really going to see the variegation at all, so I'm totally fine saying, okay, I'm just going to make the other side solid, and we're calling it a day so I can make some progress, because we're now in December, and I want to make some progress on this. I'm behind schedule on my temperature tree, because I was hoping to be fully complete down to about here by this point in time, but anywho. But a decision has been made. That's all positive. I've made the decision, I've ripped it all out, I'm now ready to start restitching. And for the few, in case you really remember, there were a few at the tips of some of these branches that had to be finished. I didn't bother ripping those ones out because I went, tough luck, that's just how the cookie crumbles, and I'm not going to go find, because I think it was literally about 25 stitches on 3 or 4 different branches, and I just went, I don't care enough to go back and fix that. So ripped out the big one, everything else is fine, we're ready to get going again on this lovely project. I've got stuff everywhere. Oh yeah, on a totally different topic, was watching some Flosstubers this week, and I had a little bit of a chuckle listening to them complain about how slow it was uploading last weekend. Yeah, it was. So for those of you who watch regularly, you know that last week was one of my shorter videos, and the processing time was probably close to 4 hours to get that sucker up. So I'm fairly confident about saying that's a YouTube thing, because if it happens to more than just me, I'm going, that's YouTube. As opposed to user error, which is me. But so it'll be interesting to see how this one processes. All right. Okay, so my November focus piece, the lovely, lovely Remember November by Marnic Designs. Ugh, I love this chart. I love this chart. I'm really, okay, there we go. I'm like, I had a spot. There we go. So I did exactly what I said I was going to do. I stitched and stitched and made decent progress, but I didn't have it finished by the end of day on Tuesday, November the 30th. And I said to myself, I don't care. I'm going to keep stitching on it. And I was hoping that by today, Sunday, December the 5th, that I would have it finished. And I stayed up late last night and I got it finished. And you'll understand why I say that lightly. So here is my remember. Yeah, I know it only took 3 tries to get that. I love this. I'm so glad that I started this. So it is, all of the stitching is complete, all of the back stitching has been done, my initials and the year are in there. So that's all really positive. Here is, so for the entire month of November, I keep forgetting to bring this along with me, but here is the color palette for this particular design. And again, I laughed because when I was showing this to a friend of mine when I was trying to make that final decision about what overdyed floss I was going to use for these vines, because I wasn't using the called for kelp, it was pretty funny because she looked at it and she went, ooh, those are really bright colors. She didn't know what the design was. I, of course, did know, and I was like, don't worry, it's all going to work out just fine. So there's my, so again, predominantly DMC, 1 Kreinik number 4 braid in black, 1 Splendor silk, which is a very, it looks black on camera, but it's a very dark gray, which was used only for the word remember. And again, I was using Silken Colors Alpine grasses to do the vine. So that's what it looks like at the end. Now, I hesitate on saying it's finished, because there's one thing that isn't on there at the moment. So the thing that isn't on there is this heart. Now, I have bought the Mill Hill heart, and I do have it. I haven't sewn it on. Let's see if it falls off. I'm expecting it will. Yep. Okay, now it's solidly fallen. So I had the heart. Yep, I won't be able to find that quickly. And I've been looking at it, you know, again, as I was finishing it up, debating, and I'm decided that I'm not going to put the heart on. I have this small charm. This is a Burke's Sterling Silver Charm, and for those of you in Canada, you will know what Burke's means. It's a jewelry, it's a well-known jewelry store here in Canada. And so I have this Burke's charm that has the logo for the city where I have lived all of my life and where the majority of my family has lived. So I have decided that I am not going to put the heart on. I am going to put this Burke's charm onto it. It's a little bit smaller, but I don't care. I'm calling it good enough. Where exactly it's gonna, we'll have to space that out. It's not on there right now because this morning I was trying to find my, so it has, you know, I think normally it's supposed to go on like a charm bracelet or something. So it's got that, the end on here, and what I need to do is I couldn't find my needle nose pliers so I could pry it open so I could get it off of the charm, because I'm just gonna stitch the charm on. So that's why it's not 100% finished. All of the stitching is complete, which is why I was comfortable putting my initials in it. I just need to find my needle nose pliers and stitch the charm on, and then it will be complete. So very happy with the progress on this one. As usual, it took me all the way till very late on Saturday night. And I have that moment where I can't explain to myself why this one took so long. I really don't. Like, this is not huge. This is quite a bit smaller than the Halloween sampler, which I managed to get finished in, 32 days. I don't know. I think part of it has to do with the fact that you have quite a few colors and they're so spread out, and I don't know. Still trying to figure it out in my head. But I am thrilled with this. I am thrilled that it is finished. Yeah, again, it's one of those things. For my 2021 plan, I think it's working out fantastic. I've had this in my stash for years, and I've now finally pulled it out, started it, finished it, thrilled with how it looks. Now we need to move on. So yeah, so that was pretty good. Okay, it technically might have been very early this morning when it got finished, but that's besides the point. Of course, on Wednesday, being December the 1st, under the stitching plan for 2021, I started a new piece because I'm starting a new project every month, which is my focus piece for that month. And I made very good progress on this one. I'm very happy with this. And true to form, I'm going to be me, and I'm not going to tell you what the pattern is until next week. So here is my start. And so yeah, it's a big one. Because, why start anything small? I did have a friend who kind of said, oh, is this something you're going to get finished in the month of December? And I went, no. No. This is a big one. So I am doing this, and again, it's hard to tell until you angle the camera a little bit. So I am doing this on a 32 count Opalescent White Lugana. That is not the called for fabric for this particular design. The called for fabric is 32 count antique white linen. I was going to say Lugana. It's like, I'm pretty sure the chart doesn't say Lugana. I'm pretty sure it says linen. I, of course, because I prefer a Lugana or an even weave, I'm stitching it on Lugana. So far, those are the only changes that I have made. And again, I don't know. It's just like the weirdest thing. I can't explain what's going on, but I'm now totally going to jinx myself because I go, this one's progressing quite nicely. So I started in the middle, which started me here as part of this tree. I have not put the base of the tree on. The called for color for that is Weeks Dye Works Havana. And it's funny because I know that as part of my kitting up for 2022, I've got some other projects that also call for Weeks Dye Works Havana. And every time I look at Havana, I go, I can't use that. I have to find a different brown. So this week's challenge is to find a different brown so I can stitch my tree trunk here. A quality 6 stitches. It is used elsewhere in this design, but that's neither here nor there. This motif here already has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so this already has 5 colors in it. There are another 5 colors left to go to get it complete. Anyway, I'm coming along. I'm happy with my progress. So this is stitching for the 4 days. I haven't stitched, this does not include stitching for today, Sunday, December the 5th. So I'm thrilled with my start on this. And again, having, happy that my Remember November, again, I looked at this one. This is not as old as the Remember November. This, I think, is a 2018 release. But again, I'm thrilled that I'm starting it. I think this is going to be a super fun stitch for the month of December, along with other things. So that is my start. Oh yeah, the other thing I was going to point out, this includes, let's see, I don't know if you can see, but buried in that tree, there's a little tiny bit of gold. So there are little 1/1 stitches done in a petite treasure braid. So the same petite treasure braid that's used for the star kind of makes it look like there's little ornaments on the tree. Don't love stitching the 1/1, loved how it looked at the end. The stitches here, it's interesting when you look at the chart for this on the cover looks like the person who stitched it using eyelets. The called for is Smyrna crosses. I did it as Smyrnas. There are other eyelets that are called for in this pattern, and I'll be happy to do them there. But quite frankly, when I looked at it, I just looked at it and I went, no, I think I would rather have my tree actually be Smyrna crosses as opposed to eyelet stitches. But again, if you were working on this and you wanted your tree to have eyelets, change them to eyelets. So that's my new start. This is the color palette for that particular design. It is predominantly done with Weeks Dye Works. So far, I have not made any changes so far, other than I already have plans to change the Havana brown to a different, it will still be brown, it just won't be Havana. The other one that I'm contemplating changing is this one here. It calls for this blue bonnet. I'm not 100% convinced that that is right, or whether I should change it to still staying in the Weeks Dye Works family and just making that their navy. Not Michael's navy, which is a darker navy, but the one that they call straight up navy. So stay tuned next week, because I will probably have made that decision by next Sunday, because there are spots that are coming that call for that. So that is my stitching for the week. Again, I feel like it's been a pretty good week. Made the decision on the tree, ripped it out, finished Remember November, and feel like I got a pretty healthy start on my December focus piece, so I'm pleased with that. Let's talk about Stashquisitions. So fairly light. Since you saw me last week, I did say that there was probably going to be a couple more Etsy purchases that were coming on Cyber Monday, and that is what happened. So this is, so these are both off of Etsy. This is from Kitty and Me Designs. I'm already having area for Christmas. I'm not 100% sold on the cardinal in here, but I like everything else about it. The fact that it's got the treble clef, that it's, anyway, it's Christmas related, it's got a treble clef. And check back in 10 years when I start working on this to see whether I actually put the cardinal in or not. Maybe, maybe not, haven't decided. But there was an Etsy sale, and I decided it was time to stop looking at it and pull the pin. The other one that I picked up is Stitchrovia. So this is a set of 3 charts that you get together, Joy, Hope, and Love. I really got it for this Joy one. Love fireworks, love the concept. Whether I do this on a navy blue or whether I do it on a charcoal Lugana is yet to be determined. Might change a little bit of the colors, but check back later. So reasonably behaved on that front. Like I say, I did stop by my LNS to check out their new cocoa bean and didn't made my decision on that. But I decided since they had a new shipment of cocoa bean that I would wise up, and I got 3 skeins that are the same because you all know my intention is to actually do another temperature tree, which will cover my first year of life. So I decided, since I've had so many problems with cocoa bean and since they had just gotten a shipment in, that I would get 3 skeins that are the same so I don't have this problem when I go to do my second version of the temperature tree. So there you go. So that's it. Those are my Stashquisitions. Look at me being all well behaved. Let's talk free chart. So this is a free chart that Stashquisitions is putting out in 4 parts. They are releasing them one Sunday at a time, but it's not a mystery. So this is what the chart is going to look like at the end. So part 1 is sort of like this quarter, part 2 is this quarter. I'm assuming part 3 will be this one, and part 4. And you know my line about when charts are free, you get them while they're free. So I will put the link to both part 1 and part 2 down below. She has said on the blog that they are free at her shop as well as on her blog. I have just gone to the blog and downloaded the PDF version straight off of the blog. You can do it either way. The other thing that I was going to do, because Stashquisitions is part of the Silk app, which is available currently only for Apple products. It is not available for, what's the other name? Anyway, you all know what I mean. I have an iPad, I have an iPhone, so I do have the Silk app. So I was actually going to go onto the Silk app and see if it was available for free on there as well. So I've already downloaded the PDFs, but I was actually going to see if it was available so it could go into the Stitch app, Silk app on my iPad. Anyway, if you're interested, the links to part 1 and part 2 are down below. Of course, you'll have to monitor the blog for part 3 and part 4 again, which should be coming out on the next 2 Sundays. So that's my free chart for this week. The other thing for anybody who is watching Flosstube, if you are interested, there are several people who are doing Flossmas again this year. I'm not doing Flossmas. There's no way I'm going to do a video every day. Kudos to anybody who's doing Flossmas, including like Rachel Q and Michelle from Mama Loves You GB, and there's several of them. Not quite as many as I think there were last year, but I totally get that. But kudos to anybody who's doing the daily videos, because I know I couldn't do it. I can come up with content for a video a week. I can't come up with content every day. Like I said, Rachel Q is doing a video a day. Mama Loves You GB is doing one every day. Hers includes, she's sort of showing her finishes for the year, whether they're Christmas related or not. So it's kind of a walk through her finishes. She also is doing, she's doing a free chart every day. So again, kudos to her for finding that many free charts. So if you're looking for free charts, you can catch up on her Flossmas ones. She's got the links to the free chart she talks about on each day of her Flossmas in her notes below. And she's also, opening advent calendars, which are interesting to watch. And it's interesting because I watch them and I go, like she's doing more than one. One is stitching related, one is not stitching related, and the not stitching related one I go, yeah, this is why I don't do advent calendars like that, because yeah, anyway. You know, I'm not good with a mystery. I could probably handle the stitching one, the other one not so much. Anyway. All right, and with that, that has been a rapid tour of the stitching, so let's get on to the topic. And so my topic for today, I chose to talk about opalescent fabric. Why? Because I am stitching my December focus piece on opalescent fabric. And as it's interesting watching people comment about how they find working on opalescent fabric. They're, hang on a second. I forgot this last week and I forgot it again. It's because it's not sitting on the table. I did have one other, for me, stitching related acquisition. I was in the dollar store. They had a Sherpa baby quilt. It was $4. It came home to keep me warm. Anyway, there we go. I was looking over, go like, I really need to do this so it can go to where it's actually going to live. Anyway, okay, back to the topic, opalescent fabric. It's interesting watching people talk about this because there are quite a few people who make comments about how they struggle working on opalescent fabric. And it is a little bit, it can be different than working on any of the other fabrics. And that may sound counterintuitive, but one of the things that makes it different is because the opalescent thread is woven into the fabric. And so there are times where, like even on the, so one, I'm using Lugana because I always prefer an even weave to a linen. I am not fond of linens for the very fact that their fibers are not uniform. Some of them are the same, some of them are thicker, some of them are thinner. So you take all of that and then you weave in an additional fiber to give it the opalescent look. And it can make it harder. Like if you're someone who struggles stitching on linen already, making it an opalescent can make it harder because it's harder to do that counting. Because sometimes that fiber looks like it's just another thread. And even on the Lugana that I have been working on for my December focus piece, like there's actually parts where you look at it and you go like, there's no hole. It doesn't look like there's a hole where there should be, where you should be putting in your stitch, because it has been covered up by the additional fiber that is woven in to make it opalescent. Now, for me, I don't find it necessarily hard. I just look and go like, so it's covered up. So I usually, it's not that far, like on one fiber either direction, you can usually see the hole. So you really just sort of, particularly on a Lugana where it is even, I just sort of pull my needle over that one extra spot, maybe two spots. And as soon as you're pulling it over, your hole opens up for you. But again, if you were someone who was new to stitching on a Lugana or a linen, I certainly wouldn't advocate starting with an opalescent because it is just going to be that one extra layer of confusion about how you're finding your spot if you're making the transition from working on Ada. So I know I will comment that it's not hard for me to sort of see people saying that they find it harder to work, because I certainly know that the first time that I worked on an opalescent, I did find it a little bit harder. Now, part of that had to do with the fact that I was smart enough. So this is one, I started off by doing it on an opalescent linen, not an opalescent Lugana. And two, I did it using 1/1. So I was making this ornament. This is from an earlier cross-stitch magazine. But this is the piece ornament from M Designs. And so In case you haven't seen the last time I showed it, if you turn it sideways, there's the word peace. The other side, of course, is just the mirror image of it, and it makes it look like a tree. But again, so this is done on an opalescent linen. And I did say I found it harder. 1, it was a linen. 2, it was opalescent. 3, I was doing it 1/1. So I added all of the crazy things together in one little project. But, you know, you make your way through it. So it was interesting when I was sitting down to work on my new focus piece for December that I was like, it'll be interesting if I find it as challenging as I remember when I was working on my piece ornament. And the answer is no. I'm finding it easier. 1, I think it's because it's Lugana. 2, because I'm doing it over 2 threads. 3, I've worked on opalescent fabric before, so I think I took the learnings from version number 1 and have pulled them into version number 2. So far I've been doing okay. One of the things that people complain about is that they actually find the sparkle to actually be distracting while they're stitching. And I can see why people make that comment. For me, the way that I work around it is that, again, I'm just looking for the holes in the fabric. So I'm actually visually trying to ignore the sparkle and just look for my holes and do my stitching that way. If you're someone who visually you sort of look at the entire effect, I can see how the opalescent threads would be distracting, because the way they look, again, are not uniform in how they sparkle or which color on the spectrum they are when they're woven in. It can be distracting. So I can see why people find it distracting. Again, my solution to that is by focusing on where the holes in the fabric are so that I can make my stitches. And for those of you that are wondering, yes, I still haven't finished this. I did haul it out. I was looking for it and it's like, oh yeah, it's in that special bag. Because I want to make this into a small pillow. One, I'm warning you right now, don't get your hopes up that this is necessarily going to happen anytime soon. But I do actually have the Berry Crush velvet from Lady Dot Creates, so that if I really just got my act together. Anyway, stay tuned. We'll see if anything happens this month. Don't hold your breath. I know myself. Okay. So we've talked about the fact that you can get opalescent fabric in both linen and Lugana. I have not seen Jobelin in an opalescent, so don't quote me because I haven't specifically gone looking for it, but I haven't seen it. And I do have quite a collection of Jobelin, and I would think that if I had seen it, I probably would have added it to my stash. So generally your manufacturers, you can get white in opalescent, you can get natural in opalescent. It's interesting, the new Country Cottage Needleworks series for 2022, their Nutcracker Village, is being done on an opalescent fabric. So one, you should just know that if you're looking into doing that, if you're concerned about working on opalescent on linen, don't forget you can get opalescent in a Lugana. So Zweigart, the other interesting thing about that particular series is I love when designers do this, because they work in their merry little world, they're doing their designing, and this is not the first time that a manufacturer has been sort of caught off guard by a release. So Zweigart, the manufacturer, so the called for is natural linen with a silver metallic thread running through it, as opposed to a gold colored thread. And certainly in the natural, that is the one that they are producing regularly. So the natural with the silver was, I don't think, necessarily expected in their production run, but once they sort of, once Country Cottage Needleworks released their design, I think it became evident that they were maybe going to have to bump that up. So if you have an order in with a shop and they're telling you that they are waiting for the fabric, that is absolutely true. There's nothing they can do right now. They're waiting for Zweigart in Germany to manufacture the natural linen with the silver thread for that particular series. Anyway, just in case you were wondering, the other one that I remember happened is when Kringles was released, and they were using a metallic thread from Access Commodities. They just didn't tell Access Commodities that they were planning on doing that. So anyway, that was another one that you if you were wanting to use the called for, you had to wait because your stores couldn't get it. They were waiting for it to be manufactured. So that's sort of where, that's the starting point for opalescent fabric. Of course, a lot of the hand dyers of fabric can get their base fabric in opalescent, and therefore they can offer their colors in opalescent fabric as well. So I don't have a ton of opalescent fabric in my collection. I clearly have white. But this is my example of, and again, it's going to be hard to tell on camera. Ooh, that's not. So I'll hold it up so you can, there you go. There you go. Right, so there's the metallic. This is, I was going to say, where's my bag? So this is from Picture This Plus. This is, I ordered this last year, got it at the beginning of this year. Picture This Plus still, you know, hey, 10 months at least. So this is Crystal Pewter. So Picture This Plus, their colors, when they do them on an opalescent fabric, they call them crystal as opposed to opalescent. So if you're looking on somebody's website and they're talking about crystal something by Picture This Plus, that's really just meaning that they've done it using an opalescent base fabric to do their dyeing on. So I have the Crystal Pewter in a 32 count Lugana. And again, there are lots of dyers. You know, again, because I'm a Lugana girl, I've got mine in Lugana. But if you were looking for Picture This Plus and you wanted an opalescent, a color in an opalescent on a linen, they do that as well. You know, generally, like I say, most fabric dyers that I am aware of offer an opalescent version of their stuff. Maybe not all of it. You should also be aware that when your dyer is dyeing on the opalescent fabrics, it does change the color a little bit. Why is that? Because you've got this extra fiber that is running through it, and the metallic doesn't take the dye, right? So if they're starting off with an opalescent fabric, when you dye it, it's still going to have, the metallic is still going to be the same color. It's not taking the dye, but it tonally changes how your fabric looks. You know, not dramatically, but in my experience, it does make it a little bit lighter than what it otherwise would have been on a regular non-opalescent fabric of the same kind, because you have this metallic thread running through it. So an example of another fabric that I have in my collection that isn't opalescent. So this is from Fabric Flare. It's a huge piece. Now, that's only part of it. Oops, because it goes all the way down there. So Fabric Flare is a printed, they print their fabric. This is their Palace fabric in the colorway green. I think it comes in 4 or 5 different colors. So I want to say like there's a yellow, a blue, a green, a purple, maybe a pink. I don't know. Now, I've got this very specifically for a Mirabilia design. Stay tuned. Again, when I get these ideas, this is where I go whole hog and I go and I buy the stuff, because you know, I've been trained by my mother, when it calls for specialty things, or you make a decision and it's a specialty thing, you buy the specialty thing just in case by the time you get around to stitching it, which is really relevant for me, the specialty item is no longer available. So my example, you know, we all know that this year I have started stitching on patterns that have been in my stash for at least 20 years. So, you know, this is why those lessons are particularly relevant for me. So this is, you know, again, so this is a printed fabric from Fabric Flair. And again, they have got lots of options available in opalescence as well. So, like I say, a lot of different people who are making fabrics offer this. The other thing that I just wanted to talk about when you're thinking about opalescent is that there are techniques that dyers are using to add sparkle to fabrics, but the base fabric is not an opalescent fabric. Now, exactly how they're doing this, I don't exactly know. Like, so in my head, I go like Fiberlicious has got some like this. The piece that I've got is from Sunny Dye Fabric. So it does have metallic in it. Again, because it's just going to look, I don't know where. So yes, there you go. You can see a little bit of it there. But again, the difference here is that this is not woven into the fabric. So whether this is, like, I can't really tell, like, I want to say that I think it's like been sprayed on or painted on. So don't quote me, because clearly I don't know exactly how this works. But for me, part of the appeal for this fabric, one, again, this is for a very specific design. One, I had seen somebody stitch this design specifically on this fabric, which is why I went out and then got it for myself. But it is not done on an opalescent fabric. So this is a hand painted fabric, because it's got, you know, stuff at the bottom. This is a hand-painted fabric where I'm calling it glitter, has been applied to the fabric in some other method. It is not part of the fabric itself like the other opalescent. So in my head, that's the difference. Like, an opalescent means that your base fabric, whether you're doing it just on white or natural, or whether you're getting one of the opalescent fabrics from one of the hand dyers, they're starting with an opalescent fabric. In these examples, I call these glitter fabrics. This is my own terminology. If you go and you talk to somebody else and you're talking about glitter fabrics, don't be surprised if they look at you very oddly and they don't understand. So I don't actually know what the technical name is for it. You know, again, even when I was looking at this at the Sunny Dyes one to see if they actually did any specific reference as to how they were making it known that there was sparkle in this fabric, and they don't. It's not in the name. It's only in the description. So glitter fabric or sparkle fabric, but just be careful if you're looking for that version that it's not opalescent, because it's not done on an opalescent fabric. They have applied the sparkle to this using some method. Like I say, so Sunny Dyes for sure does it because I've got a piece of fabric, and I know that they have other fabrics that they have done this on as well. I know that Fiberlicious, or at least historically, has had some very specific, again, hand-painted designs in their lineup where they have added the sparkle, glitter. Not sure what it is. Now, the interesting thing is, so I can, if you're worried about the ones where it's applied, I will say this, and certainly using this one as an example, like if I go like this, it's not, oh, see, there it is. That's actually doing really well. It's not coming off, right? So whatever their application method of getting it on there, it's on there. It's not going anywhere. I've had this piece of fabric for several years now. None of it has fallen off. Nothing has happened here. And like I say, you know, even if I were working on it, I'm not worried that anything's going to happen to the sparkle. I'm also not worried about working on it because I've actually watched another Flosstuber work on a piece on this, for me, on this specific fabric, and went, nothing happened. So, you know, those are the options. If you're someone, you know, because I've got some people in my life where you go, everything's better if it's sparklier. We all have people in our worlds that if it's sparklier, that's better. And if you're one of those people, you might want to consider using opalescent fabrics. Again, even if you don't want to do it on white and you don't want to do it natural, that's fine. Like I say, there are a lot of hand dyers out there. They are dyeing their colors on the opalescent fabric. My only caution to you is if you've seen that color from a fabric dyer and if you've seen it in a linen, if you do it on an opalescent linen, it is going to be a little bit lighter. If you've seen it in a linen and you're doing it on a Lugana, trust me, it's going to be lighter for the most part. You have to be very careful about what your dyer says about how their dyes work on the different fabrics. And so again, different dyers are doing it differently. I really like the ones where they actually show you, here's what this color looks like on Ada, Lugana, linen, opalescent. Not everybody does that, which is suboptimal. And certainly for a lot of these hand dyers where you can only get them from the dyer themselves, my caution to you would be is like, if you're not comfortable about it, email them first. Don't purchase your fabric and then sort of go, it comes and you go like, this looks nothing like how I was hoping. I know that I like Fabrics by Stephanie. This was years ago. I was looking at some of the stuff on her site and, you know, I reached out, I emailed her and said, look, I'm looking at trying to place an order. I'm trying to understand how these specific colors look like on, I don't want them on a linen. I want them on either a Jobelin or a Lugana. But again, how the dye works on a 28 count versus how the dye works on a 32 count is different. And so I reached out to her and said, this is what I'm aiming for. Can you please recommend which fiber and which count it will work best on to achieve what I'm looking for? And she told me and I ordered it and it was fantastic. So if you're one of those people where you're trying to do this, my recommendation is reach out to the dyer. Now, if it's Picture This Plus, I truly don't know whether you're going to get a response from them or not. And I do know for a fact that if you look on Picture This Plus's website, it doesn't show what the different, their colorways look like on a linen versus a Lugana. As far as I can tell, generally their pictures that they show on their website have been done on a linen. I've ordered a lot of the Luganas. That's how I know. Again, and I would say the majority of my Picture This Plus Lugana stash has been bought from a physical store so that I could see it. The downside is if you go to a physical store and you see it is that you may like it more than if you had seen it on the website. The other thing about hand dyers, and I saw an example of it this week, is what piece A looks like and piece B looks like and piece C looks like and piece D looks like could all be different. Every time a hand dyer goes to dye a batch, they're doing it on an individual basis. So this is not mass produced. So the colors, like if you're getting a solid color from Zweigart, generally batch A and batch B, the colors are fairly consistent. Not 100% consistent, because if you go back a couple of episodes, I had to get a second piece of Icelandic blue from Perman because they were close, but they were not identical, and I went back and got a second piece so that they would be the same. So again, probably fairly similar. As soon as you get into the hand-dyed realm, all bets are off. So again, so if you were looking at a picture of this plus, I don't want to speak on behalf of them because I don't know what the reactions could be. I'm expecting, given their current struggles, that probably answering the what does this color really look like on the different things is you're probably not going to get a good answer. But if you go to one of the smaller dyers, so whether it is Dyeing for Cross Stitch, Fabrics by Stephanie, Bestitch Me, you might be able to get a reasonable response out of Color and Cotton, Fortnite Fabrics. I'm probably missing another 20, Fiberlicious, whatever. If you're, XJU Designs, yes, I'm missing about 47 fabric, hand dyed by Rolanda. There's a lot of small dyers. Fabrics by Jody from the Steel City Stitchers. So if you reach out to one of those, you're probably going to be able to get a really good response from them, trying to achieve the look that you're wanting. That's, again, a recommendation for you. If you're trying to get something very specific and you're trying to get it on an opalescent, maybe reach out to the dyer and sort of say, here's what it looks like on the website. This is what I'm trying to achieve for my piece. Can you recommend what the best option for me is going to be? It could also be that if they go, okay, I know, I don't know if Stephanie, when she was dyeing those two specific pieces for me, because I'd reached out and said, I want to place an order. This is what I'm looking for. If my name popped up and she looked at this, like, oh, here's that order for Judy. She's looking for, because we'd had this email exchange, who knows? It can't hurt. Anyway, so like I say, there's lots of options. If you're one of those people where sparkle is always better than no sparkle, there are a lot of options out there for you. Just be careful about how you're doing your colors. If you're someone who goes, I don't know that I want to stitch on it, again, my recommendation is do something small. I was looking at somebody's posting, Instagram, Facebook, I don't know, one of those two things, where they were like, I'm not really sure I want to do this, but Jean at the Attic says, always give it a try. And I'm also in that camp. Don't go whole hog. Don't go buy 47,000 things of opalescent if you don't know if you like it or not. I wouldn't recommend that. But if you're someone that's been hedging, sort of saying, I've been reading comments where people don't like working on it, it's too hard, work on a smaller piece. Work on an ornament over two. My recommendation is that if you're starting, if this is your first time working on opalescent fabric, my personal recommendation is do it on an even weave. So do it on a Lugana. Probably do it on a 28 count. Before you work your way up, do it on a 28 count, and then see if you like it. Do something small. Don't put a lot of investment, because if you don't like it, you're not going to enjoy it. Unless you're, somebody weird like me who says, even though I hate doing this, I'm doing it anyway, because I like how it looks at the end. Yeah, how many times have I said that? Yeah. There are a lot of... It's funny, for a hobby that I enjoy, there's a lot of times where I go, like, I don't like this aspect of it, but I'm doing it anyway. Anyway, so that's what I have for you on opalescent. If you're looking for them, there are a lot of options out there. Don't be afraid to try it. Like I say, but before you do something gigantic, start something small, because it isn't for everyone. And I do know, I do have friends where I go, like, they've tried it and they hated it and they just went, I never want to do this again. And that's totally fine. You can take anything that's done on an opalescent fabric and just put it on a solid and you're fine. If you've done that and you still want to add sparkle to the piece, it just means maybe look at either Petite Treasure Braid or Kreinik. Yeah, I know. After all my whining and complaining, I'm still advocating that those are good options for times, you know, because that gives you étoile, right? I put the étoile into the Halloween sampler. You know, it's going to let you add some sparkle to replace the background sparkle. Options to consider. Because of course, you know, for me that I am the one that says the pattern is the starting point. You don't, there are lots of people, if the pattern is exactly what you want it to look like, that's great. If you look at the pattern and go, I like the concept of the pattern, but I don't like it exactly the way that it's shown, don't be afraid to change it. Because I do that a lot, where I go, this pattern is fantastic if only they had gotten the colors right. And yes, usually it's because I'm changing browns to grays and I'm taking out yellows. Everybody knows I have my things that I change, but anyway. There you go. That's my discussion on opalescent fabric. Like I say, it was interesting when I started this one because after my complaining about doing my ornament, this one is no problem. Now, it could just be that I've now have experience working on it. This is a Lugana. Who knows? But here's my start again. Loving it. Can't wait to see what it looks like next week. Let's see how much I get done. Yes. So, my last comment is for those of you who made the comments who are also December birthdays. Wow, there's quite a few of us that are celebrating in December. And I'm also interested how many of us have made the decision to do a birthday start. So this is certainly the first year for me where I have made the decision to do a birthday stitching start. So that's I made that decision last month, but it's an add to the schedule for this month. So I am looking forward to it. My birthday is the 15th, so it will be the middle of the month. So I will start on that Wednesday, another new start to add into the thing. I have not decided until I get started on it. I won't make any decisions about how much it's going to show up in my stitching this month. But I am looking forward to starting it. Wait till you see what it is. Anyway, we'll talk about that when we get to the 19th. Anyway, with that, I hope everybody has had a great stitching week. I hope that you are staying safe. I hope that you are staying healthy. I hope that you are finding time to stitch. As always, happy to have a conversation with you through the comment section down below. So if you have any questions, comments, topics that you would like me to address, always happy to have those in the comments down below. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care, guys.